Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing great. As you may know, in the previous video we talked about the differences between ANCOVA and ANOVA. Here's the link in the right corner above. But today we're specifically going to talk about ANCOVA. Have you ever wondered when should I actually use ANCOVA? A lot of people think of it as just ANOVA plus a covariate. But truth be told, sometimes ANCOVA is the perfect choice and sometimes it will completely mislead you. In the next slide, I'll walk you through when to use ANCOVA and just as importantly, when you should avoid it. So let's get started. Let me start with a quick refresher. ANCOVA, or analysis of covariance, is used when you want to compare group means while controlling for another continuous variable that might influence your outcome. That variable is called a covariate. So the logic here is that instead of just asking, are the group means different? ANCOVA asks, are the group means different after we statistically adjust for the covariate? Right? Okay, I hope you got it. Now that we understood what the ANCOVA is, let's see when it makes sense to use ANCOVA. Here are the main conditions. First, you have a continuous covariate that is related to your dependent variable. For example, baseline test scores that predict post-test performance are continuous variable. And secondly, the covariate is measured before the intervention. That's very important because the covariate should not be influenced by the treatment. And third condition is that the relationship between the covariate and the dependent variable is linear. If it's non-linear, ANCOVA's adjustment wouldn't be accurate. And the last condition is that the homogeneity of regression slopes assumption holds. It means that the covariate influences the outcome in the same way for all groups, across all groups. Now that we know the condition, let's make this concrete and see an example. Imagine you're comparing 3 exercise programs, running, swimming, and cycling. And the outcome here is weight loss after 8 weeks. But before the experiment, you also measure each participant's baseline body weight. Because we know that naturally people who start heavier often lose more weight in the same time frame, regardless of the exercise type. So by including baseline weight as a covariate in ANCOVA, you adjust for those initial differences. That way you can compare the exercise program more fairly. It's like as if everyone started at the same baseline weight, right? So now let's talk about the danger zone, when you should not use ANCOVA. Here are the scenarios for this condition. First, if the covariate is affected by the treatment, for example, don't use motivation measured during the experiment as a covariate because that would block part of the treatment effect itself, because motivation could be affected by anything and could be affected by the treatment itself. So that's not a good choice. And secondly, if groups differ too much at baseline, you need to know that ANCOVA isn't the magic fix for poor randomization. So if one group starts much higher than the others, the adjustment won't make them truly comparable. And using ANCOVA in this scenario doesn't make sense. Another condition is that when regression slopes differ across groups, as we talked about in the previous slide, this is the homogeneity of regression slopes assumption again. If the relationship between the covariate and the outcome is different for each group, then the adjustment becomes misleading. Here is what I mean by the homogeneity of regression slopes. Look at the left plot, and you see all groups have parallel slopes. That's the situation where ANCOVA works. But on the right, you see the slopes cross each other, and here the effect of covariate depends on the group. So in this case, ANCOVA's assumption is broken, or as we say, is violated. So the results would be misleading. And finally, the last scenario of not using ANCOVA is when the covariate is categorical. ANCOVA assumes continuous covariate, so if you have a categorical one, consider blocking, matching, or stratification instead. Here's the big picture of what we talked about so far. Use ANCOVA when you have a meaningful continuous covariate measured before treatment and the assumptions are satisfied. And don't use ANCOVA to fix a badly designed experiment. It cannot rescue you from baseline imbalance or assumption violations. And that was it. Now you know when ANCOVA is your friend and when it's a trap. As I said at the beginning of this tutorial, if you want to go deeper into this topic, check out my video on ANCOVA vs ANOVA. It sets the stage for everything we have discussed here. As always, thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.